He
Hmm.
obviously does have internet access. I mean, we all saw his newsletters and he talked to you. What was that conversation like?
Yeah, so I spoke with him for a little over 3 hours. A lot of it was on background, but a decent portion of it was on the record. And I mean, his life right now, he is at home. He wears an ankle monitor, which I was able to see, but he definitely seems to be somewhat in his element. He's kind of set up shop in his family's study, where he's got big dual monitors plus a laptop on the side that he uses for gaming. In fact, he played sort of an online fantasy game called Storybook Brawl, which is a company that or an entity that FTX had acquired last March. And he, although he was engaged in an interview with me, he was playing the game throughout the duration of the discussion. He has sort of like a little, I guess, cot or bed to the side of his desk where he's able to sleep and take naps when he wants. And basically his day now is really doing things online, playing games, doing research pertaining to his case, speaking with lawyers. I mean, as we've reported and has been reported, and he's just blatantly said himself multiple times over the last couple of months, since FTX fell apart and he became CEO, he professes innocence. And although he says that he did not meet standards when it comes to things like risk management and just good organizational controls at the company, he does not believe that he did anything criminal, and that ultimately he believes that that's going to be proven in court. Obviously, that's a big claim, and we are not the ones that are required to adjudicate that, but that's his belief. So he's focusing right now on trying to organize his defense, and he does again against a lot of advice from his lawyers, who would probably prefer he just shut up. He's not willing to do that. He thinks that that's a loser strategy. That the narrative against him is already sort of like preordained his guilt, and his strategy is to try to get public opinion to at least, if not go on to his side. In my opinion, his strategy is to at least get the public to be open to the idea of accepting alternative facts, and that the story that's being sold of this 30-year-old criminal mastermind who stole billions of dollars from unsuspecting investors, although salacious, may not be the entire truth.
Stephen, this is really interesting. And as you know, I mean, he's been compared to Bernie Madoff for what has happened with FTX. And this paired with him not taking any accountability, whether or not he needs to, that's the courts to decide, but also
Mm-hmm.
him just playing video games while you were talking to him. The word that is coming to my head is flippant. Was that his demeanor at all when you were talking to him?
No, that's a good question too, because I asked him, I asked him when I interviewed him on December 12th, and we had that discussion again while we were there, like what should happen to him. I mean, obviously, if he is guilty of, especially the most serious crimes that he's being accused of in the indictment, and uh, the crimes that some of his key lieutenants like Carolyn Ellison and Gary Wang admitted to, he needs to go to prison for a very long time, and I think he would admit that as well if he did do it. Uh, he did suggest though, but I asked him, just imagine a world where you everything that you're saying is true, and that like this was not purposeful stealing of funds. I mean, just as a hypothetical, but obviously this was still a terrible situation where a million plus people lost money. It led to all kinds of questions about regulation, the safety, the security of crypto, and whether or not it's a viable industry moving forward. Like should anything happen to you, like what is an acceptable punishment? And he kind of said, like maybe like a civil fine. Right now, I think the largest civil fine that's ever been assigned to a crypto firm is an exchange called BitMEX, which previously dominated the crypto derivative space with something called a perpetual futures contract. I believe they got $150 million. He suggested maybe something double that. Um, I, I'm not necessarily convinced that would fix everything, because obviously civil fines, there's always debates as to how much it actually gets paid, how much money actually gets paid, and when it gets paid, and greed is, especially in highly speculative industries like crypto, is something that just if you go back through the centuries, it's something that always kind of pops up over and over again. So I don't know if I don't necessarily think that would be a satisfactory answer to everybody, but that is kind of what he said. But I think your question was whether or not he comes off as flippant. That's not the impression that I got from him. I think I think there's probably two ways for me to answer that question. One, I don't think he necessarily is always dealing with the seriousness of what happened and is fully grounded. But that almost might be a defensive mechanism in the case. I mean, we're talking about a company that a few months ago was valued at $32 billion. And he was literally like seen as the white knight of crypto. And I think in some ways, in order to be able to just function, given everything that he's gone through, you almost have to air gap yourself from that, or almost like someone who's dealing with a type of like family or psychological trauma. You have to find a way to function. To do that, sometimes you can't always deal with the gravity or the weight of these types of situations, especially if he is trying to organize his defense. And I think he also is resolved. Again, courts will ultimately decide whether or not he's guilty, but he's consistent in his messaging, and he says that he did not knowingly commit any crimes. And I think he is going to continue, or he seems like he's going to continue professing that for as long as people are willing to listen. And that's kind of why he started his Substack, and that's why he's starting to speak to the media a little bit more. So I think those are probably the two best ways to answer that question.
Steven, I really appreciate your insight here. And anytime you do talk to him between now and October 2nd, when he's set to go to trial and beyond, I would love to have you back for a recap. Steven Ehrlich, thank you so much.
Great, thank you.